The Detroit Lions just suffered another major loss ahead of the 2025 NFL season. Y'all know we going to talk about it and break it down, but you know you got to hear the music first.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and I'm holding it down on another episode. So if you tuned in, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Man, the Detroit Lions just suffered another gut punch to this offseason ahead of the 2025 NFL season. This time with Center Frank Ragnow announcing his retirement out of nowhere for the Detroit Lions. This is a Detroit Lions team that has took a number of losses, and that typically happens when a team is really that good and you got OCs and DCs and all these guys doing particularly well, and then they move on by getting eyes from other organizations who have or who are in need of some help, and they took another loss with all-pro center Frank Ragnow announcing his retirement. He went on to say in his note from retirement and saying this: these past couple of months have been very trying as I've come to the realization that my football journey is ending and I'm officially retiring from the NFL. I tried to convince myself that I'm feeling good, but I'm not, and it's time to prioritize my health and my family's future. I have given this team everything I have, and I thought I had more to give, but the reality is simple: I don't. I have to listen to my body, and this has been one of the hardest decisions of my life. The Lions organization has been absolutely incredible throughout the process, and I can't emphasize this enough how grateful I am for this team and all the fans. It was an absolute honor going to battle for you all. Look, shout out to my mans. These last few seasons, my mans has been an integral part of putting together a hell of an offensive line for the Detroit Lions, one that was right up there neck and neck with the offensive line and the Philadelphia Eagles. And you got to show love to them. They put a hurting on a lot of people by running the rock and being able to provide good protection for Jared Goff and being able to give valleys of open space to running backs like David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs these last few seasons and helping those guys become relevant again. Can't hate. But man, is it a major loss to the Detroit Lions in this regard. You were so good, you got the OC and the DC promoted. that goes well for you as the Detroit Lions to say, hey, our program is one of the best. We gonna have our guys be able to have an opportunity to promote and further their careers in the NFL. But to lose Ben Johnson first and foremost was a major hit to the Detroit Lions team. Then you go out in the same offseason, you lose Aaron Glenn, and that was another major loss to that defense. When you talk about Ben Johnson and all the creativity he was able to put together in the plays, in the way that he called games with the attention to details. I remember fake fumbles, Panay Sewell getting open, you know what I'm saying, catching the ball. Fun stuff to watch, even if you are a rival of this team as myself. But you look at it and you say, damn, another major loss. Because after you lost Ben Johnson, then you lost Aaron Glenn. You lost one of the best and champion wide receiver coaches in Antoine Randall. And those guys are now out of the building. And now you have to rely on guys like John Morton to come into the fray and be the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions now. Then you look at a first-time defensive coordinator, and rightfully so, gets promoted within the organization, and we'll see what he's made of, but a first-time defensive coordinator in Kelvin Shepard to see what he can do. So major losses to the Detroit Lions, And you also lost a piece from your offensive line in Kevin Zeitler, who went on to sign somewhere else. Now, I will be remiss if I didn't mention that they did bring in other offensive linemen in this year's draft. They did. In the second round, they picked up Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. And in the fifth round, they pick up Miles Frazier, guard out of LSU. Now, these are guards. I don't necessarily know the background with these two players and to say if one of those guys are going to be capable of playing the center position, but we do know it is going to be hard to replace an all-pro center like my man's Frank Ragnow. It's going to be difficult. The center position on the offensive line outside of left tackle is the most important position on the offensive line based on how well they can communicate, how well they can get guys to their spots, how well can you dissect and shift and help shift lines from left to right, who's going to be double teaming, if you're left over on an island, can you hold your own? And this man right here has held his own. Really, really good offensive lineman that the Detroit Lions have lost. So when you look at it and you talk about it, those major losses, we've seen examples of it. We just remember a few years ago, the Philadelphia Eagles making it to the Super Bowl, and then they go out and lose their coordinators. They start the season off well, but they ended horribly simply because the coordinators to their team just wasn't good enough. Then they had to go out and get yourself a Kellen Moore and get yourself a Vic Fangio just to kind of reboot that coaching staff to help them elevate themselves. I don't know what John Morton is going to do for the Detroit Lions, but apparently, from some of the rumblings that's going on, he was an intricate part about to the offense that was being ran the last few years. But I will push back and say, just because you was part of it, don't mean it's not going to take a step back. It can very well still stay on the same course, but it does not mean that that won't step back simply because he wasn't the one calling the plays. The same thing can be said about the first time DC. How is he going to function and operate when things get a little tight, when you got to apply a little pressure, when you got to look at situations and you got to bring pressure, or say, hey, it's 3rd and 10. Hey, if we give up this big third down, they can continue to march down the field and potentially put points up to win the game. How well can John Morton and Kelvin Shepherd adjust to the game is going to be very, very important. I keep hearing all this stuff about how good Dan Campbell is, and he's the culture setter. He's the guy. We're going to see. We're going to see. And I'm not going to sell the man short because he got those guys to rally around. But at one point, the rally cry from the Detroit Lions was nobody believes in us. People keep crapping on us. You can't use that anymore. Maybe you could, because myself, I'm not so high on the Detroit Lions being able to capture and take this division this season simply because those losses to the offensive and defensive coordinator and now pieces to the offensive line. Yes, you can have some guys come in, but we don't know if they're going to operate to the level of some of the guys that the Detroit Lions have lost. Communication is key when running the football and passing the football. So we're going to see if the Detroit Lions miss a step. Look, I'm looking at the Green Bay Packers. I'm looking at if the Minnesota Vikings can get J.J. McCarthy to not just squander games and how well Kevin O'Connell can call a football game. And I'm looking at the improvements of the Chicago Bears and to see if Ben Johnson is really like that. I don't think it's theirs to just lose anymore. They're going to be battling within the NFC North this season, in my personal opinion. The Detroit Lions will be battling in this division. They still have the talent. Don't get it twisted. They still have talent all around the team. But we've seen plenty of cases to where teams have the talent, but the coaching staff lets the team down. Players on the team let the team down. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how the NFC North pans out because it's such a battle between all four teams within there, and all four teams continue to make improvements, and all four teams have good coaches, or at least we expect Ben Johnson to place his name within those good ranks, within those coaches, within the NFC North, because he was OC. Now he's the head coach. We'll see how he handles the Chicago Bears. I can't get ahead of my skis when it talk about my team, man. I just can't. But if we keeping it real, major losses for the Detroit Lions to go out like that. To go out like that. We'll see if they have somebody to fill in for my man's Frank, to see if he can go out there and build that chemistry. The good thing is that this is happening now. If we speaking objectively, this is good that it's happening now before you get into mandatory mini camp, before you get into training camp, before you get into preseason. So right now, the Detroit Lions should feel good because it didn't happen in the middle of training camp, or it didn't happen right before the preseason. It happened right now, and this allows them time to figure things out, because they are absolutely going to have to figure some stuff out after taking another major loss. I think it's a lot of losses, bro. A lot of losses. It's going to be hard to recover from. I don't have the Detroit Lions winning the division. I will say they will be battling for that wild card spot, though. That's where I'm going to put them right now. I'm not going to completely say they're going to fall off the map, but I will say for the division, I don't think they got it locked up anymore. Just personally, I don't think the Detroit Lions have the NFC North on lock right now. I could be proven wrong. I think there's some other teams within the division that might have a little more continuity and a little bit more things working for them than the Detroit Lions right now. I'm looking at, like, again, if JJ McCarthy, if he can go out there and just execute the game plan like we seen when he was back in Michigan, obviously that's college versus the NFL, and not squander the game, Kevin O'Connell will be able to put him in good position with all those offensive weapons. Brian Flores is going to call the defense like the maniac that he is, and they're going to be good. As long as JJ McCarthy does his job, they'll be in the mix. The Green Bay Packers, I need to see a little bit more consistency out of Jordan Love, but they're still a really good team that's young and very, very talented with Matt LaFleur. Then the Chicago Bears, the offseason champs for the last 3 years. If they can put it on wax, they'll be in the mix. So I don't think that the Detroit Lions, have this thing locked up just yet. I think that they are going to have to prove some people wrong. So I guess that's what's going to have to be the rally cry from Dan Campbell. They said that we lost our coordinators. We lost some really, really good, important pieces to the team. Now we got to go out there and prove them wrong. So that's the rally cry right now, proving these guys wrong around the NFL. We'll see what transpires after another major loss for the Detroit Lions. It is going to be crazy in the NFC North, and I hope my team come out on top. But I can't put it on wax. I got to see it for myself before I just crown the Chicago Bears to do anything. That's just me. But hey, I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode, man. Go ahead and drop all your comment, feedback, and everything down below. Let's talk about this, because I think it's another major loss to the Detroit Lions organization to lose all those coaches and to lose major pieces on that offensive line. And we don't know how well Aiden Hutchinson is going to be coming back from injury. Woo! It's going to be tough for them guys, but we're going to see how it all shapes out, man. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned in, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel. Thank y'all so much. Make sure you always love football, and I'm going to catch y'all on the next for sure.